decision makers.
Generally speaking, they wouldn't be allowed to construct something in the right of way, and so if we took something out, it would not be our liability. In a case where we specifically grant the authority for it to be installed, I think there's a decent chance that liability could be shifted, at least to some extent. So I do think it's important to consider that reality as you make this decision, but, yeah.
And my first question with you guys would be, did you understand what I'm saying about if you built it 15 foot out and then had a 2 foot overhang? So then you'd have 17 feet. You also have space in front of the house that you've done a nice job of making it look like a patio, so I get that. But in an emergency, if you were looking at, say, a hailstorm coming through and you wanted to get your car in there, you could move that furniture and get that car completely covered. Does that sound like something that, if the council agreed to do that, is that something you think you could make work instead of having the full 20 feet?
I would work on that. 15 feet and 30 feet is enough.
So y'all understand what we're saying here, which is really fits into the city's recommendation as well, so.
Y'all understand if you sell, it's gotta come down now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
I
don't
have a
agree with
question
that.
about, I have a question about that too, especially if this is a permanent, fixture and it's is it going to be attached to the house?
Yeah.
So, so it'll match like.
It's gonna look like the house.
Pick it up like.
Oh, okay, well, that's even better.
Well, it won't go up all the way to the top, though.
No, they went to the.
No, it'll be attached right above the awnings, not the awnings, but
It's gonna go under the roof line,
Yeah.
under the roof line and
Be
connect into.
underneath
Kinda like
the
where the lights
star.
are right here.
You see the star on there?
Yeah, there's a star right there, and there's a, like,
Oh, wait a minute. So- It sounds like you're going a lot further over than 14 foot. This
No, it's going 14 foot, but I'm just saying, using the star
yeah,
as the center and
So right
go over to where they're gonna put it, that's where they're gonna attach. They're not going all the way up integrally, in other words.
So my personal opinion is, if we're gonna require them to build a carport that looks like the rest of their house, then it shouldn't be required to tear it down. And somebody's gonna get into some issues where, if I come back and buy this house in 15 years myself, who's gonna tell me that that's gotta come down and,
One of these 2 young kids who's on council, but.
That's right.
Well,
Our future leaders.
The idea would be that in keeping it to the responsibility of the person who receives the accommodation, then you would hopefully keep it to people that are knowledgeable of that fact, right? That if they take advantage of the accommodation, and when the need for it at the property is gone, then that exception to your regulations would be taken back. That's the idea. The goal is to try to avoid people down the road that aren't aware, that don't have knowledge of it, being met with the burden of removing something that's no longer authorized. So I think that's the idea, is it allows you to meet the need, but not completely override and do away with your regulations.
Well, so even now, we're making an exception, so when their neighbor all of a sudden likes this carport and they come in wanting it because they like the carport, not because they have a need, we have not opened that door, correct?
That's correct. No.
And here's the letter that.
So I would just as soon take that out and have them build this in a quality to where, I mean, it's one thing if we were allowing them to build more of a temporary type
This is a sample
fixture.
type opinion, basically granting a letter for you to kind of have an idea. It doesn't have to be this way. This is a draft that I've just brought, in case it was helpful.
But it is using the 15 foot in the letters.
It is. Yeah, it talks about. But certainly this could be crafted to match whatever conditions you all approve.
so if we approve this, and then, let me make sure I get this straight, so if we approve it and they build it and everything, and then they decide to move and sell it, are you saying they don't, whoever buys it has to take that down, or it stays there?
Well, as this is drafted, and if you make it a condition, then you could require that when they leave the property, that it be removed, because the need is no longer there.
At their expense?
That's correct. And the reasoning is, this is an exception for their use of the property.
Okay.
It goes against your regulations, and then therefore, when they're finished and the need is no longer there, the property would go back into compliance with your regulations.
Okay.
That's the justification for it.
¿Entiendes más o menos lo que está diciendo?
Sí.
Sí, okay, nada más, so quiero estar segura. Okay.
Now, I don't believe that's a requirement. I don't think you have to have that condition if you don't want to, I suppose.
Kind of a
So
dairy.
I'd like to ask some,
I think you need a non-conforming use.
Yeah.
As soon as they leave, then it's non-conforming property.
so that's another way it could be addressed, you could do
No,
a
that's
non.
what occurs,
Well,
if we
you
don't
would-
have that.
You would create a non-conforming
Oh,
use
it's now
as soon
allowed
as
from
they
now
leave.
on.
Until it's removed. If it was removed, nobody could put it back, but it would be
So-
allowed until.
So part of my questions would be, like I mentioned to start with, it looks like y'all have done a beautiful job on your home here with the ephes or stucco and.
Yeah, we try to make it time to the house.
It's pretty, I like it.
So is the carport gonna have stucco poles like
Yeah,
we
stucco.
see here?
Yeah, we cover it with topo and so.
And the roof is gonna match your existing roof?
Side,
Shingle it,
mhm. We try to make it up everything.
Match everything out.
so of course if they do sell it, it's really not their problem, it's the buyer's problem.
Yeah, and that's would be my
We're still
concern,
up-
is that somebody buys it and they've really been cheated because they didn't know better.
Well, how do we keep track of this is the thing, like the occupancy, whatever they have to apply, like to avoid, anyone going and doing an inspection or whatever occurs when a house sells and the new buyer has their occupancy removed.
To get a new CO.
Yeah, that's when we do it, but
The people that buy it.
my thing is I wanted to record this downtown in the title, because when they pull it up, if that's what council does, that way when they pull it up, it will show on the title board.
But if they go only to the 15 feet, is it still a special request
Yes,
because?
So what?
because you can't have anything out in front of a carport out in front. It has to be integrally built and can be no closer than 25 foot to the street, and this will,
Well, none of the lots on that street
none
or
of
over
it
there
will,
will
no,
ever meet that requirement.
nope.
I mean, their houses are probably barely 25 feet from.
The only thing they could have is this one has no unnecessary hardship by the ZBA, whereas another house might, you know, but this one don't, it's not an irregular shaped lot, there's no trees involved, there's nothing.
That's the house that they're talking about.
ZBA hardship, it has to be the shape of the lot, in other words, your lot's too narrow to get it, a tree or some other something. It can't be I went through all those meetings, it can't be it can't be a physical hardship, so we're giving them a pretty big exception. I say we are, but I feel like we should. Having had a kid with special needs, but understand.
So yes, any of those conditions they're not required. You all can consider what is appropriate based on the size, based on the location of the right-of-way, whatever you think is appropriate there. You can consider whether or not you want to require that it be removed or not at the end of the time period. Again, I believe what happens is it's a legal use, and then the right to have it ceases when they leave the property, in which case it would become a legal non-conforming use, which would then be in existence until it's no longer in existence. But is that understanding what you expect to happen there? Is that something you're willing to do? It could be.
That might be a selling point for the house, so I have a problem with.
Oh, absolutely, I think it's gonna be muddy somewhere
What
down
is
the
that?
road, and
What's
probably long gone,
Once
but
it's there, it's there.
If it's there permanently,
I
then
don't want these guys having to deal with the lake, they'll have their
What
own
were them
set.
guys
Amen.
thinking?
When y'all are on council, make sure this keeps getting repeated.
does it make you more concerned about the right-of-way, wanting to respect that line more if it's a permanent fixture that 20 years from now, maybe something else needs